Let's begin by telling you that the World Bank projects that the world may be edging towards a global recession as central banks across the world simultaneously hike interest rates to combat persistent inflation. The bank in a new study revealed that the world's three largest economies, the United States, China and the Euro area, have been slowing sharply, and even a moderate hit to the global economy over the next year could tip it into recession. It said the global economy was now in its steepest slowdown following a post-recession recovery since 1970, and consumer confidence had already dropped more sharply than in the run-up to previous global recessions. House of Representatives Committee on Finance wants explanation from the PENCOM on the agency's 12 billion naira personnel cost for 2021. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the issue came up when the Director General of the PENCOM appeared at the MTF public hearing.
It's a staff strength of 500. That's on the high side, don't you think? This is a minimum of 2.4. Are you telling me? Are you telling me that the most junior or the lowest of your employee earn as much as 2 million naira per month?
We have to build capacity. We have to create awareness. That is one of the expenses where we have to train them in the best of places. If we don't pay these salaries we pay, we are going to submit to what is known as regulatory capture. What this means is that our staff will compromise.
The Director General of the Industrial Training Fund has declared a state of emergency on unemployment, stating that the recipe to addressing it is to equip Nigerians with technical and vocational skills. Maplanda Kok reports that this was at the formal agreement of collaboration on skills development with the Director General of Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, Adewale Smart.
The government white-collar jobs are either unavailable or not even in existence. And so the only thing is to equip as many Nigerians as possible who can set up on their own, develop the nation, grow MSMEs, which is the largest job creator in any clime, and then change the narrative for our country.
That we join hands with these two agencies to continue to promote everything that will develop skills, everything that will help us to reduce unemployment, and everything that will put Nigeria back in the map of the best economy in Africa.
Now, Nigeria's inflation rate has surged further to 20.52% year-on-year in the month of August 2022 from 19.64% recorded in the previous month. Latest report by the National Bureau of Statistics showed on a month-on-month basis the index rose by 1.77% compared to the 1.82% increase recorded in the previous month. Food inflation rose to 23.12% in August 2022, representing a 1.1 percent point increase compared to 22.02% recorded in the previous month. On a month-on-month basis, the food inflation rate in July stood at 1.98%. This is 0.07% lower than 2.04% recorded in the previous month. On a year-on-year basis, in August 2022, the urban inflation rate was 20.95%. This was 3.36% higher compared to 17.59% recorded in August 2021. The rural inflation rate in August 2022 was 20.12% on a year-on-year basis. This was 3.69% higher compared to 16.43% recorded in August 2021. Now, inflation rate in Nigeria crossed the 20% mark in August as prices of goods and services continue to soar. Joining us today on the program to discuss this issue and how it is affecting the economy is Paul Alaje. He is senior economist, SPM Professionals. Welcome to Business Express.
Thank you so very much for having me, and good afternoon.
A very good afternoon. How is United Arab Emirates this afternoon?
Well, it's great. Really
Okay.
great.
Okay. Well, we have now reached the 20% mark on inflation. How bad is the situation?
Well, most people disposable income is being eroded. What it means is that if you have 1,000 naira this time last year, what it could buy will now be 800 naira. And as your income increases, that percentage is the average amount that is eroded. It also means that people will either have to work more. In the case where the works are not there, then people have to perhaps cut their spendings, or the cost of living generally, the implication that is that it has increased. Inflation figure tells us a lot of things as measured by consumer price index, and this report given by the National Bureau of Statistics tells us that we have a lot to deal with. And I must put a caveat that as I talk to you, America has confirmed recession, and Europe, as we speak, is having a fragile economy, just like Africa is having. And we have seen what China is going through. All of these are major indicator, major parameter that the world might be ready for another recession. For you to know what that means, take your mind back to what we experienced in 2007 during global financial crisis. Similar indicators in global financial crisis, in real estate, and a number of things is what China is currently going through. We have also seen what happened in 2020 when the global lockdown, the first and the one that we have experienced in its recent history. Even though people are going around, COVID is present, but the potency seems to have dwindled. But what seems not to have departed from the world is the economic crisis, the economic quagmire that the entire world is faced with. For Nigeria, the evidence remains high inflation, high unemployment, and a few of other factors.
Okay, Mr. Alaje, you made mention of global recession. Some people might start thinking, how does it affect a country like Nigeria?
Well, Nigeria does not live in isolation. When you look at the national income accounting for Nigeria, we say our GDP, it's a function of our consumption, investment, government expenditure, if you remove tax from that and you look at the net. But we also have relate with the world, which is evident in our import minus export. So that's our function as a country that is open. And I can tell you, when you look at National Bureau of Statistics inflation figure, it will show you that urban center is where the theater of inflation, as you have seen in the report for August. And what does it mean for urban center? The people in urban center, what do they consume? Mostly imported commodity. And for those that are watching us today in their homes, the television, even if it's assembled in Nigeria, which I doubt, but the television they are using, they are viewing this program for, is perhaps imported. Much everything around you is imported, and most of the imported things are seen in urban center. And when you look at economies where we import even food and finished goods from, they are in crisis. Russia has a Russia policy is having a toll, is having tremendous negative effect on the entire western part of Europe. And you see Ukraine, that seems to be the soft landing for them, continue to fight for our soul as a nation within the fingers of Putin, the president of Russia. So quite a number of things that the world is going through right now. And I can tell you global recession is almost here. And I can tell you more organization, more institution, local and abroad, we keep confirming this because America seems to have given the signal. China may eventually cave in, and if you see what will happen with Europe because of what is going on in those two eastern part of Europe, the war, nobody knows when it will end. All of these have implications, and Nigeria is certainly paying for the cost of war that we know nothing about. I can tell you, as a manufacturer myself, in December, I bought a liter of diesel for 300. Just yesterday, it's over 840 naira. In December, diesel, that sector has been deregulated. The policy still remains till now. What changed? Availability of diesel. And I have said countries that do not prepare for days like this will continue to suffer in days like this. This is why Democratic Republic of Congo is suffering from it, and you have Sudan suffering from it, South Sudan suffering from it. The impact is evident in South Africa, and I can tell you Egypt, Morocco has tried to see how it can attract more funds. That's our authority in Nigeria, especially those in charge of our trade and investment. And by trade, We are not talking of just SMEs. It's important, but we should not overemphasize economic tokenism. We should see
Let me
the
come in.
importance
On a year-on-year basis, the inflation rose to 20.52%. Can you hear me, Mr. Elijah? On a year-on-year basis, the inflation rose to 20.52%, but on month-on-month basis, it dropped to 1.77% from 1.82%. Can you make us understand the difference?
Now, inflation grew at a slower rate on month-on-month. It does not mean inflation fell month-on-month. It's important to analyze and interpret data very correctly. The National Bureau of Statistics is saying that while inflation is still growing, but the rate at which it growth is now slower than what happened for the month of July. So it is still growing, and because it's growing, you can even see year on year, inflation grew by over 20% between now and last year, and within 1 month it grew. When we now compare the growth in inflation for month of August compared with the growth in the month of July, we say that the month of August, the rate of growth, the way it's accelerated, is not as fast as the way it's accelerated in July. But what the bottom line is that inflation is with us. It's high. Average price level is high, which has negative impact on purchasing power.
Now, is Nigeria's case as a result of increase in the cost of production or a demand and supply situation?
Well, I will tell you that there are different schools of economics. The monetary, the neoclassical will tell you that it is demand function, and therefore you need central bank to make policy. Unfortunately, the whole world is facing the same direction. The same mistake the globe made during COVID. And I remember that I granted interview with a number of stations, your television station inclusive. And I said, if Nigeria don't back off from this lockdown policy, very soon we may have a more potent crisis in our hands that will not be able to handle. And I'm happy President Buhari started relaxing the lockdown policy. The same way, our central bank across the globe are increasing interest rate together. Cutting money supply is going to cause demand shocks, which is what the world is experiencing. Food shortage, people aren't having enough money. We are seeing inflation and reducing. It's not reducing at all. Meanwhile, agencies of government, for instance, in Nigeria and a few other countries, are finding it very challenging to have revenue because people are finding it difficult to do business. So rather than us continue on a race, we are running cycle in the same sport. Policy somersault is affecting not just Africa, but some other countries even outside Africa, but it seems to be present even in our nation today.
Okay, we all know that what goes up must come down, but when and how will Nigeria's inflation come down?
Well, what goes up must come down. It might not be in all economic factor. It might not be all economic factor that you see goes up must come down. In the saying, yes, what goes on comes down. But if you have skipped a food for 1 night, for 2 nights, for 3 nights, it is important to remain hopeful. But if you don't plan well, the next 3 nights, you might as well go to your bed without food. And I don't know how long you can sustain without eating for a long time. But the implication may be energy that you need to move, energy you need to speak, energy you need to function may not be there. So what goes up must come down. It is because people deliberately put action, institution, policy in place for such things that has increased to come down. And the father of modern classical economics, neoclassical economics, I beg your pardon, Milton Friedman has also said it's important for authorities to make policy. But when you look on the other hand, the Keynesian school, which of course supported government intervention, has also not been quiet. And they said, well, we are seeing cost push inflation on the other side, and we think that it's important for government to be involved. For me, I've carefully studied what the two schools of economics are saying and how we can be impacted positively as a nation. So while central bank continue to follow monetary school, it's important for fiscal and trade authority to take action now. Fiscal authority must not just be to pay salaries. There must be deliberate action to help our people. We have seen, by the way, some of the policy government have made to help people from poverty. We have seen several interventionist program. Kudos to government on all of those. But more important, we need policy that will save the soul of our economy. And this will be evident in a number of things which we hope government to do in the future.
Okay, before I let you go, we'd like to know whether should this be a worry for us?
Well, the world is worried. The whole world should be worried, not just Nigeria. So if you now say, should there be worry for us? I can tell you the bag of rice that was for local rice, that was perhaps 24,000. This month is going for about 30,000. And by December, I can tell you we have more to worry about as long as Putin continue to fight Ukraine, as long as some global major economy continue to be in recession, as long as significant proportion of our oil in Niger Delta is stolen, as long as we have banditry, we have so much to worry about. And I think we all need to get to work to make our country a better place for people to live in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul Alaje, senior economist, SPM professionals, and let's hope that Putin stop fighting Ukraine and we do the necessary things to address the problem.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Now moving on, federal government is harnessing renewable energy resources to provide access to electricity for rural communities across the country. Joshua Jita reports that communities in Niger State are the latest beneficiaries of the intervention.
The government has sunk in so much money into this project, and there is a need for the people themselves to appreciate the fact that the government cannot continue to run it for them, and therefore there is a need for them to come forward, ensure that they have a management that will not only provide security for the project, but also ensure its sustenance and maintenance at all times.
So this particular project is 60 kilowatt peak mini grid, hybrid mini grid, where now we use the solar energy actually to generate electricity for the common use of our people and also for productive use.
We have about 10 to 15 rice mills that are being operating on gas and fuel. So I believe this will be a boost to their business activities.
Now to energy markets, oil prices edged higher on Friday, but were on track for a weekly decline amid fears of sharp interest rate hikes that will slam global growth and heat fuel demand. Brent crude futures were up 56 cents or 0.6% to $91.40 a barrel, but were down 1.5% for the week so far. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained 42 cents or 0.5% to $85.52 a barrel, but we are down 1.4% on a weekly basis. Gold dropped to its lowest level since April 2021, hurt by elevated U.S. Treasury yields and a firm dollar as bets of another hefty federal rate hike eroded bullion's appeal. Now let's see how other commodities are traded. And to aviation, air passengers may be faced with more troubles as Asman Air has suspended its flight operations following alleged failure of the carrier to meet the air operator certificate renewal process. This is coming a few months after Dana Air and Aero contractors also suspended operations. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority says it suspended the air transport license of Asman Air for its failure to remit 1.2 billion naira funds collected from air travelers on its behalf to its coffers. This is as Musa Nuhu, the Director General of the authority, said that the airline also failed to submit security clearance for the renewal of its air transport license, which expired in April 2021. Trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed negative this Friday. The NGX all-share index depreciated to 49,475.42 basis point. A market capitalization dropped to 26.686 trillion naira, 107.494 million naira. Exchange hands by investors on the floor of the exchange, value at 1.150 billion naira in 3,303 deals. FBN Holding, Zenith Bank and Access Corporation led market activities. And now it's time to catch up with global market activities with Bossede Abel.
Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. The World Bank Thursday warned of a global recession in 2023 and said central bank hiking may not be enough to bring down inflation. Following that warning, U.S. stock futures fell Friday as Wall Street headed towards a big losing week and traders absorbed an ugly earnings warning from FedEx about the global economy. Dow Jones future average dropped by 263 points, S&P 500 0.99%, and Nasdaq Composite also dipped 1.25%. European markets traded lower as growth fears, expectations for futures rate hikes, and continued volatility in the energy market weighed on stocks. DAX and CAC were negative, while FTSE was marginally positive. Shares in Asia Pacific fell Friday. The Shanghai Composite was down 2.30% at 3,126.40. The Hang Seng Index dipped 0.89% at 18,761.69, and the Nikkei also depreciated 1.11% across 27,567.65. For African markets, it was mostly negative, but Ghana's GSA Composite appreciated marginally. That's the Global Market Review. I am Bossede Abel.
Well, that's it. This is where we end this episode of the program for the week. Business Express will return next week. Don't forget you can access all previous episodes on YouTube. I am Musa Abubakar. Have a nice day.
Thank you.